And we're back. Minimalism. So for those of you that were tuning in before, we were talking about something totally different. This is something that we had planned to do for a while. We're reviewing the Minimalists. Now, if you're not familiar, Hugo, by the way, how are you since we last spoke?
I'm okay. You would have seen at the end of the last link, Sean, that my internet crapped out. So I unfortunately had to cut it off early, but I just quickly went to the toilet, got a drink, and I'm ready to go and shift gears into this this next area.
Well, we have to do a few things. First,
of course.
Our subtle. There we go. All right, good. That's done. And we have to do one other thing. And here we go.
You know, all right. I think that needs a couple more bars. You know, our politics one runs for a little bit longer. I think that just is, the drama is there. Love the impact. I think it just needs a little bit more. You know, so
have you seen the sports one, by the way?
I have. Have you got that right there?
There you go.
Nice. That's perfect. That felt right. The film was like building to something, and I think it just needed a little bit more, the music side of things. That's just my own feedback. Take it for what it's worth.
The only problem we have is our budget is very tight, and those are the right price for us to use. That's the best one.
Look at the amount of money, time, and effort we put into the subscribe button.
That's right. It was
that's not a tight budget. Look at the pixelated hand on that.
No, that's. I think though, if anything, it's showing. You know, we're creating a bit of. You know, people may want to maybe support us a bit more to get rid of the pixelation. But why don't we jump into the film and TV review again? Just let's get another point of view. And that's my favorite one. I will say that is my favorite of the three. So I quite like that. I wouldn't want to change it, but we can talk about that in a meeting later. Okay. Let's talk about the Minimalists today. So just to give you an idea, Hugh and I discovered the Minimalists on their last book. I think it was Everything That Remains was their book. And then they came out with a documentary on Netflix. And it's a really interesting story because these two guys are just extremely relatable. I'd love to have a beer with them. Really like what they're doing. But they came out with a documentary in 2016 in which they talk about their stories of coming from nothing, having a lot of stuff, and then reviewing sort of what that means, what it means to have all of this stuff, what is important in their lives. And they made a documentary that I got to say, I mean, it hasn't been transformational for me, but it's really, it's been stuck in my head for the last 4 or 5 years. Everything I do refers back to that first documentary I saw. And when you mentioned there was a new one out, I was very keen to see it. How did you come to find out about the Minimalists?
In general, it was from you. I remember I think you said you got to check these guys out. I think it might have been, I think it was the documentary actually that was out at the time. And I think this would be right down your alley, Hugh. You should check it out. You told me a few things about the stuff that they do, living frugally, living with less, that type of thing. I was in investing at that point.
Yeah.
And, no, not that point, because it wasn't that long ago. I just remember you flagging it. So, yeah, it was you, mate. And you were spot on. I watched the documentary, instantly liked it. I think the guys, they're both tremendous. Like, I just wish there were more people on the planet like that in general.
Yeah.
And really like what they stand for, agreed with a lot of what they said, gave it a little go myself, and I ended up then deep diving a little bit more probably than you, I'm going to hazard a guess, with regards to digesting more information. So I went through a whole host of their podcasts and then bought, I know, at least 2 of the books. So I got the Minimalists book, their very first release, and then Everything That Remains. And I think I may have done the third one as the other one as well. No, I definitely did 2. So that brings me up to speed. And then I saw their latest documentary and thought, oh, well, let's check this out as well. So I'm keen to see your thoughts on the documentary as well in the moment. But you said you were kind of a fan idly, and it's taken you a while to kind of implement some of the stuff, or some of their processes. I mean, how has that documentary changed you, if at all, then, Sean?
So I was somebody, me, who had a lot of tech, a lot of gadgets. And I think I'm somebody who, in hindsight, and I'm going to get into this documentary, but it sort of reminded me that there's certain elements about my personality, and there's certain things I go to in moments of weakness, and part of that is either not so much with having a drink, but I might, we might get a pizza the night when I feel a bit stressed out. But I also, to find a bit of escapism, I like to find new things that will improve my life. So I probably used to default to improving my life through finding things that will make my life easier, not finding ways to change my behaviors to make my life better. So clearly I'm perfect, and it's the things that are missing. So I was focusing on things. And when I saw this documentary, when I read this book, I think I saw them on, it's one of those things where Facebook, and this is where social media is tremendous. It introduces you with its algorithms to things that you may like based on what you were starting to search. And this is one of those things that the Facebook algorithm really, really helped me with, because it really caused me to examine my mess. I'm a messy person, and I love the idea of having my house like a hotel room. I like going into a hotel room where it's hard for me to make a mess in a hotel room because I don't have a lot of shit. And I read the book, and then I watched the first documentary, and I was just so intrigued by the idea of getting rid of stuff and just having space. And it wasn't just that, but it was like the freedom. It wasn't just associated with stuff, but it was with people and with your time. And it just, the whole idea of minimizing, everything in my life and just focusing on what's important was just like a transformational idea. And the way they delivered that message was so relatable that it just struck a chord. And that's why I had to share it with you.
Yeah. Totally agree, mate. I think they're very good communicators. That they're just, like you said, they're so likable that you're really going to be open to hearing them out anyway. But their sales pitch, their elevator's pitch of minimalism, of just, having less of the less meaningful things to create more time and energy for the things that are more meaningful in your life, is like, what a message that is. I don't think I've heard a decent enough counter to that. Like, it makes a huge amount of sense. And from my experimentations, the stuff that I've done, I can only agree with it.
So I think the best way to do this is to review this backwards, because we are ultimately reviewing the new one. But I thought it would be good just to introduce their story and the first documentary, just an overview, because it's going to help everybody get caught up to where we're at with the current documentary. So the first documentary was very much it was really clever how they did the first documentary, in my view, because they framed it around their book tour, where they released this book, Everything That Remains, and you see them traveling around the country, meeting with people, but they're also giving a first-person interview-style account of their story. So just an overview. Joshua, both of them from not broken homes as such, but there was substance abuse in their homes, and they were both very poor. They lived just outside of Dayton, Ohio, and they grew up with not a lot. And Ryan Nicodemus made the point that from his perspective, his goal is to make $50,000, because he was helping his father renovate a house, and that $50,000 was what it would take for him to buy this house, this amazing house that he thought was sort of the definition of success. Joshua came from a family, an abusive father in his family. His mother worked really hard, but she had substance abuse problems. And again, same thing. He was trying to fill those voids, trying to become successful and fill his life with things that made him happy. Now, Joshua was the first one to identify that he wasn't happy. And there was a point in his life where his wife left him, or he was divorced. I don't know the situation. And his mother also passed away of cancer. And in the process of cleaning out her house, he realized he was going into looking at, things like storage units. She had paid for a storage unit, or he was going to pay for a storage unit just to put stuff that he wasn't going to do anything with. And he found years of like his old school reports and things that were never referenced. And it started to make him transform how he thought about things. And he started to trimming the fat from his life. And it became, I'm just going to paraphrase a bit just so we can move on to the next one. It became a bit of a lifestyle, a change in his outlook on life, that these things were things that were, his cars, all of his watches, his big apartment, his flashy job. It was all just filler, and it didn't add any value to his life. And it took his mother's passing to really realize this. Ryan, on the other hand, was late to the party. His best friend growing up was Joshua, who he said, "Why are you so happy?" And this was after he had started to cut the fat out of his life. And Ryan, being a bit more, I'm jumping in with both feet, did something which I am enamored by this idea. I love this idea. Decided to have a packing party where he took all of his possessions in his apartment. He was making good money, working sales, and he wasn't happy, a lot of credit card debt. And he took all of his stuff and he moved it into a spare room in boxes, emptied his flat, his house, his apartment. Sorry, I'm in between languages here. Moved all of his stuff into an apartment, into a room, into his apartment, and everything else was as if he moved. It was called a packing party. And then for the next 3 weeks, he only unpacked the things that he needed. And he realized after 3 weeks, he had only unpacked 20% of his possessions, and the rest stayed packed away. And that was sort of the beginning of his journey with minimalism. And it was just a transformational look at that through their journey of meeting and speaking to people. And it was one of my all-time favorite documentaries, if we just forget about the content. The way they did it was so genuine. So now we're on to the next one. But before we go on to the next one, did you want to follow up with anything on the original?
I think it's a very good summary, very accurate. I think actually you're not going to be a million miles away from the second one as well. I think they, which I think we're going to roll into. So minimalism is the first one, which kind of shows their story, and it runs for I think an hour and 20 minutes, just short of. The new one, Less Is Now. I thought that it largely a very similar message. Overall, I was quite disappointed with that. I suppose as a fan of their work, is that they didn't really take it on. It was just like minimalism documentary 2.0. It was just a new version, a slightly different message, with a chunk less time. I think they did this in about 53 minutes, which the proportion of the time they took quite a chunk off it, and maybe that's the part of it. Maybe we could distill it in its most minimal form, and that's what we stand for and by. But no, I thought, without jumping again too much, Sean, and I know I already have done a little bit. The first one, I think you really did a great job of putting that out there. And before saying too much, I just want to see what your thoughts were on the Less Is Now documentary. How do you think it kind of compared and differed from the first?
So I think that is a spot on way that we look at this, because the second documentary was pretty much a rehash. There was nothing. There's only one thing that my wife and I got that was new out of it. What the documentary did is it did the same thing in a more condensed and less relatable way. So the documentary, the first one, was them being interviewed as they were traveling the country in their car. And there was little things in the first documentary that I loved. And, everybody was enamored who commented on the film about how they were traveling for 6 months with like a bag that was double the size of a laptop bag.
It was like 10 months.
Yeah. And just seeing them actually live this reality that they're preaching effectively. But it wasn't them preaching, it was them sharing.
Yes.
Now, I think this was a very genuine product. I think this was very much them trying to get their branding out there. And I don't think it was a documentary. I just think it was a bit of a show they produced. And in it was very produced. It was them telling stories in almost like a play format. It was like a one-man play style, standing there scripted, talking about their experience, as opposed to sitting down in front of a camera as if they were answering questions in an interview. And I found that, and if for whatever reason, Josh or Ryan, you're watching this, we love you. I am not knocking you. I'm just saying my feedback from the film was not about the message, and I don't think it was a bad documentary to those who are new to it. But for me, having seen the first one, it was just a good reminder, but it was done so in a less relatable way. And I was a bit disappointed because I know they're very relatable guys. I was disappointed that they didn't get across who they were in that one as fans of them. But what I will say is at the end, we did get some value out of it, because they did talk about that 30-day challenge, which was an interesting and exciting challenge, which my wife and I have started to try to do.
Oh, okay.
So it did add value, but at the end of the day, it was just almost like, for me, it was a good. If you're new to the Minimalists, it's probably a lot better than if you hadn't seen the first documentary. If you've seen the first documentary, you're not missing anything by not watching this. Of course, for us, it was a really good way, in a succinct way, to get remotivated. Because every time we watch their films and their documentaries, it just sort of reminds us on the path that we're on. But it just was a lot less relatable to me, and it was disappointing in that sense.
Yeah, I know we've got some comments coming in, so I want to give you an opportunity to do that in a moment, mate. But I just want to state that I agree with everything that you said, mate. 100%. I felt the same thing. I felt slightly disappointed after watching it. I know Matt Devella, the guy that does directing, he has his own YouTube channel. He's hugely successful on YouTube. He directed not only the first one, but the second one as well. I think he probably had more, it was, I don't know what went behind the scenes, but you could see the techniques and the way it was displayed. They spent more money on the second one, I would hazard a guess. That's just,
they were acting at points too.
I don't know that, but I'm sure there was more money spent in the second one.
Well, they had sets.
Yeah, and it lost the essence of what it was about for me, which is a bit of a shame. I still think that less is now. If you have no connection with the Minimalists, you don't even know what we're talking about, then it's a documentary you can still take a lot of value from. I just feel that the first one did a way better job of portraying the individuals. And this kind of brings me back in general, mate. I feel like I just want to make a comment off the back, because I want to also just not repeat what you're saying, because you did such a great job of that. I've really come to prefer documentaries over films. It's something I've noticed myself in the last year. And I don't think I can compete with something that's just so real and raw as a proper documentary, especially those ones like, catching a murderer, is it, or Staircase? Some of these like true crime documentaries that you're following. Yes, they've got angles. Yes, they have an agenda. But watching something true life unfolding, that is, for me, is just so captivating and real. And you get to get a real sense of the characters behind it, the real people. And that's what the first one did. It was us watching Josh and Ryan communicate with people, speak on stage, and when there was like mostly empty stadiums, and just being real and being who they were. And yet this Less Is Now was just like a scripted version of that. It felt less authentic, less connected to them. It was more polished. But for me, take all the bloody polish off. I just want to see who you are, because actually, like you said, Sean, those guys are top blokes, and they have so much to offer. And I felt they almost sold themselves a little bit short as a result, which is a little bit of a shame.
I think if you take out the first one and you've watched the second one, I think their stories are very good. They do a good job of portraying their personal journey in a very succinct manner. And I think if we were to take ourselves out of the equation, it's not a bad documentary. But the reason we view it as not as good is almost disappointing, is because of how good the first one was and what we saw. And Veg, I think, so they minimalized who they were relatable to. I think in this case, the only saving grace for me is the fact that we know they are relatable. We know they're genuinely good. We believe they're good people. So I think we can give them a bit of grace. They haven't minimalized their relatability to us in that. We just think they missed the mark on this one.
I think what I would add as well is that I think, to our defense, if we were to be seen to be a little bit harsh on them, I think this is their second documentary. So you've brought people into this world and this term minimalism in the first documentary. You're going to release a second one. But there should almost have been a caveat that if you've seen the first one, don't bother watching this apart from the last 5 minutes. And I think that would have been a fairly accurate description. So for those of us that have followed them from the first one and read their books, mother-in-law.
Cheers. I was waiting for it.
Wait. Lou even said, "Shall I call her? Tell her not to call." And I said, "No, just like, I don't want to stop her. If she wants to talk, she can do that."
Let her roll.
So my point being, no, I'm going to just stand a little bit firmer on this, because it was their second documentary. You had an opportunity to take this on to another level and to discuss this in a different way. And maybe your counter argument might be, well, yeah, the last 5 minutes, we kind of put something in, a bit more of a call to action, which we're going to come on to with Sean, because that's what you did. But I don't know. I feel they missed an opportunity to really do something a bit different, and they went over the old ground. So that's what. Yes, the first one for me was better and more relatable, but it's not just that. You had an opportunity to take it on, and I don't think you did.
I think they tried to, though, because one of the things they do go into they what they took on a bit more so. So I'll say that they did try to take it into a different direction, and part of it is I don't. The one message that I sort of resist in this whole minimalism thing is there seems to be a lot of ownership on capitalism and companies for making stuff and selling stuff. And I think that for me, I almost shut off with that because I'm more focused on how I can improve my perception and my behavior around things. I don't begrudge Apple for getting people excited about the next device, or shops making a frenzy on Black Friday to generate business. I think that's more down to the individual and improving the individual. I'm more interested in that. I'm not interested in hearing some of these authors. So this documentary is more showcasing certain personalities and authors and influencers and their view on how companies are making us think a certain way. I think for me, I take more ownership on myself, and I don't really pay attention to that element of the documentary. So that if anything, they tried to take something on that I pretty much probably didn't pay attention to.
Okay, I think that my two pennies worth is, I mean, companies can't make us do anything, but what they can employ or choose not to employ are very powerful, seductive techniques which are wired into our brain chemistry that we have very little say over, and they are manipulating behavior, and we are allowing that to a degree. Again, I'm not here to state that like we should be banning it and stopping it, but I think it's a reality. It's happening. Like, advertising to children is and toys and all these things. It's a very compelling. It's a difficult position to put parents into when kids just don't have the foresight, and even grown adults can't resist the latest iPhone. Like it's tapped into us. So I think I do. But having said that, I kind of do agree with you. I think it's more of just like I think the point that I got across was just it's raising awareness that this is happening. And maybe not saying to stop that, but we just need to step back and be mindful that this is happening and to make better choices that were aligned with our own personal welfare, and perhaps realizing that if we do give in to that side or we're unmindful and we're going ahead and buying things, it won't necessarily lead to us having a healthier and more fulfilling life.
Yeah. Where I think I kind of bring it back to that is that's what you're saying at the end there. That's how I can have a more fulfilling life is about me. And I want to know how I can improve myself. And I don't want, and to be fair, maybe I'm being a bit harsh, and maybe it's good that somebody's trying to make us aware that these influences are maybe beyond our conscious behavior or conscious understanding, that these Apple is influencing us in ways that are a bit subversive and we don't know. But I think as far as my value, it's more about, I want to focus on tips and tricks and ideas, different ways that I can look at things. And that's where I thought the first documentary spent more time on. It's them speaking to people, answering real world questions. Whereas in this one, it was making a presentation. And for me, that's where I think it lost some of its genuine appeal. It was a bit more preachy than the last one in the format that they were providing it in.
Yeah, I would say that's fair, mate, on that last point on the preachy bit. And I'm with you, mate. I would like to have seen, again, a bit more of an opportunity of last 5 minutes aside, of them going through a little bit more the practicalities of it. Like, how do you make this real? You've got Marie Kondo's program on there, The Magic of Tidying Up, a book that she released many years ago, which I digested, and I kind of took that on, and I've done all my drawers and my cupboards and everything. And then she's done a series, and she's made it more practical and visual now on Netflix. It was quite a big hit. I think it was last year or perhaps even the year before that.
Yeah.
So I think there was the opportunity to maybe do either sharing some of their own techniques outside of the last 5 minutes, a bit more of what they did, or to have maybe done a bit more of a Marie Kondo type of thing where they jump into the lives of other people and help them make their choices. So it didn't have to necessarily be about them. But overall, I thought there was way too much repetition from the first one and not enough taking it into a new direction off the second. I think, I think we're both in agreement on that.
Yeah, I don't know that there's much they can do with their topic in itself is minimal. And I think for me, when I see their content, I would have liked to have seen them tackle more specific methods, maybe adapt their style to more of what, and I haven't seen much of, is it Marie Kondo? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
More of, whenever I listen to their podcast, I want to hear more about how they implement these things into their lives more specifically now. And what I found intriguing, actually, there was some pieces of value that I did pull from it. And I don't know if you noticed, this jumped out at you. They were in Ryan Nicodemus's house, and he was talking about what his house looks like. And that's the kind of the content that I wanted to really kind of draw out of them, is what does minimalism look to them? Because in the first one, when I watched the first one, Joshua's place in the first one was very bare, and it was very sort of clinical. And I think that's more Joshua. Ryan is a bit more, I think,
I agree.
I don't know if he's more laid back or not, but when I saw the pictures of the video from his house, you could see books on display, and it had more stuff in it than I expected. And I found that intriguing. And I wanted them to go into more of their own personal lives and how they're currently doing minimalism day to day as they've evolved. They've become different people throughout this process. And that's something, if you are watching Josh and Ryan, not that you ever will, but if you happen to watch this, I would love to see more of that content on Netflix. I would love to see you going through where are the minimalists now. And I think a lot of your fans like me would like to see that.
But I think we would, absolutely. And even if there was some concerns about the kind of privacy of going through that, which I would respect wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
I think there's an opportunity to go and help others that I could do that too, like in the Mary Kondo style, where it can not necessarily just be about you. It could be about helping others. And I think minimalism as a whole, that putting across, it's not about not having any books. They use that example in the first one where someone says, I love the fact I've got books here. I love being able to dip in and out, and I loan them to people and we talk about them. We have book club. And it's like, well, look, you obviously get a lot of value for your books. Keep your books.
Yeah.
But it's the point of asking the question that when you've got the stuff that's stacked there that has no meaning and isn't doing anything for you, then it shouldn't be there. And that's going to mean different things to different people. There is no right way of doing minimalism. That's the closest thing you can get to it. It's just what it means to you personally. And I think going back to your point on the difference between Josh and Ryan, as it is with me and you and everyone, the thing that came out and from reading about them as well, Joshua, I think is, I think he's a bit more intellectual. I don't think that Ryan isn't. I think Joshua is a really, really smart guy, a high level.
Yeah, I do too.
Think, I think he would just be a success. And I think Ryan would undoubtedly be a success whenever he does, because he seems a very amenable, likable guy as well. And I think that what also comes through with Josh is that he's a very disciplined guy. So he will just do whatever is necessary to get it done. And I think Ryan also has discipline within him, just not to the same extreme level that maybe Joshua has.
Would you say they're a better looking, more relatable version to us?
Categorically no, mate. No. I mean, that's a shame for them. We went with we really kicked their ass on the minimalist hairstyle front. We're close shaven, there's no hair dryers involved for me and you. It really is kept to a minimalist look. I think both of them spend way too much time on their hair.
We're exactly the opposite, aren't we? Like, they're ginger and brown. I got a little gray, but they both have more hair on the top. We both have more hair. We are the yin to their yang. And if anything, I'm messy and cluttery. So I really fulfill that side of the bargain.
I've got more on my face here, so I've got a bit more going on there. And I know you sometimes wear your specs as well, but
they're a bit smudgy today, and they're kind of crookedy. And I noticed that in the last one. It looks like I've got them squiffed. So just the comment in from Veg. So they should have minimalized how many they did and just stuck to one. I think I started to answer that. I would have liked to have seen them do one. I'm going to have that clipped the wrong way. I'd like to have seen them do an episode or a film that was a bit more about minimalism now, as they're more successful. I think that would have been intriguing to see. I think they wouldn't argue that they're successful employed sole proprietors, much like you're pretty much taking on that mantle, Hugh. And I'd love to see that minimalist mentality, that methodology, not from somebody who is coming out of, let's say, a lot of credit card debt, but from somebody who's now evolved and is trying to live that life with more means. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, it's just taking it in some direction. I think as a result of what we saw from documentary 2, should they have kept with 1 from a minimalist message point of view? Yeah, I actually do. I don't think they took it on as much as they could have. They could have taken it in a one of Sean's suggestions or even my own. And if they just planned on regurgitating large volumes of it, but just depicting it in a slightly different way, a bit more of artsy way, then yeah, I wouldn't have bothered doing the second one. But of course, from an advertising, they are a business. They are advertising themselves. They have things to sell. They have books and documentaries and whatnot and tours. So podcasts, they're making themselves more relevant and doing an updated version. And, they get my full kind of backing for that because I love their message overall. But just wish they could have done something a little different.
And you talk about sports way more than they would. Veg, you love it when we talk about sports. I think let's stop dicking about here. You love it when we talk about sports. You pretend like you don't. And what you end up doing is you probably watch on replay so you don't see that we see you watching. That's what I think happens.
You know what? Ryan was rocking one of those like skateboards, wasn't he? Like, you don't see us doing sports, do you, Sean, in our defense?
No. The one thing Ryan's shoes, I those minimalist shoes he wears with the string. They're like no shoe. Like they both are so like definably millennials in so many regards. They're huggers and they're and they're very refreshing. So you could minimalize your talk about sports. Again, it's just an act, Veg.
We need to start censoring these comments, Sean.
I'm censoring this now. Yeah. So what Veg said was she really likes it when we speak about sports.
That's why I was hearing.
How can I delete the comment? No, I'm not going to do that. I was tempted to delete the comment just to be funny, but I thought it could be taken the wrong way, and we don't want to treat the people that are having conversations with us that way.
Sean, I want to just ask you just about like the actual exercise at the end, like taking this on and what you've done with and to explain, briefly what it is and what you've done and how you found it, because I think we can talk about the documentary and largely it's been slightly disappointing overall, but I think let's kind of give the credit it's due because the message is unbelievable and talk about the benefits we've had from it.
So again, I want to go back and say, I think it's still a good idea for them to produce this product. And I think it adds value to anybody who's not seen any of their content. And if anything, if you've watched it the other way around, I've got good news for you. If you watch this one first and you'll enjoy it. You won't believe how good the second one is in comparison. I'm going to build it up because it is that much better. But that being said, at the end, they suggested, or I think Ryan talked about he finished the film with a 30-day challenge where on day 1, you minimize one thing, day 2, 2 things, day 3, and see if you can make it all the way to 30 days.
And when you say minimize, Sean, do you want to expand on what that means?
So, well, that depends on, it could be throwing something in the bin, but that's not necessarily the case because one of the things they had said during the documentary, and this kind of probably added some stress to our lives this week because we're currently locked down. And my wife is very much, we need to do things the right way. And she doesn't like the idea of throwing something out because that whole message of we're hoarding something that somebody else could be finding value in. And to just throw it away it adds, even for me, not to the same degree, I'm very laid back, but let's say from my wife's perspective, she hates the idea of wasting something, even though it's not adding value for us. So if I take my junk drawer here, so one of the things that's going to be on the list is my GoPro. I'm going to sell this because it's not been used. It's not, I'm not using it enough. My phone has enough video resource that I can sell this. Somebody else would have a lot of value in having this. So I could throw it out, but I want to make sure, and I don't want to give it away. It's not cheap, but I'm going to sell this to somebody who is going to use it and is going to treasure it and is going to value it. So it's not going to waste. Or I'm going to donate stuff. So we have stuffed animals, stuffed toys, which apparently are really hard to get rid of. But we're trying to donate them somewhere, which it's really difficult. I think we may have to redo this challenge outside of lockdown because we don't want to go to the post office. And it's just really difficult. But just getting rid of things in the sense that you're giving somebody else a chance to repurpose them, but where they don't have value. I had a webcam that I was using when we started this show. So this is a different webcam now. that's not really working brilliantly. I'm not going to sell it. So it was sitting in my drawer. That's exactly the kind of thing that you still want to minimize. So there is stuff that you can throw out as well that's just sitting there, that's garbage, that people hold on to. What if I need a half working webcam in case this one craps out? Well, I'll use my phone. I'll use my computers, whatever. I don't need it, so I'm going to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was the whole ethos behind it, is seeing how much stuff you have in your life. Identify how many things in your life that don't add value, and make you question, why are you keeping them?
Yeah, I think, in their defense as well, it isn't, like you said, just about throwing stuff out, is it? And I think they did make a point, like donate it, sell it,
Yeah.
throw it out.
They don't say throw it out, but there's things that we're throwing out right now because of lockdown.
But and there are things that should be thrown out. Like, like I had back when I did this first, I had underwear with holes in, where my balls were actually hanging out, and I used to not wear them because
Can I censor that?
No, you can't.
I'm going to censor that.
Freedom of speech. Well, I was actually uncomfortable to wear them sometimes because I'd sit on it. Sometimes it would pull in like my parts in a certain direction. I was like, oh, I just don't wear them. But yeah, like, I don't know why I kept them. It's like ridiculous, like kind of anti, minimalist approach. So there are certain things that don't belong anywhere else, just the bin. But yeah, I think you're right. I think my thoughts, mate, is that try your best with it. You made a start, and I think there's enough stuff in our lives that maybe you can get to 30, or maybe you get halfway and you just get rid of stuff. But you're right, this isn't the best time for the GoPro stuff where you can legitimately sell it or post things on. And I think it's an incentive for a lot of people to hold on to stuff, is that, well, I'll sell it because I need the money and I've got some valuable things. And I think that's fair enough.
Well, my grandmother got me this because I'm in Britain now. So she sent this to me.
What is it?
It's a book.
A Man of Destiny, Winston Churchill. Oh, okay. Have you read it?
It's a lovely book. No. And
you're not.
No, and but right now so this is where we're going to sit tight a bit, because this could have value to somebody, maybe a collector or something. So I'm going to hold on to it for a bit, but we're going to find, like, if I go into my junk drawer now, I love this new office because I got like all my stuff like right here. I have my what I was using. This was an old Wi-Fi extender that I've swapped out for a new one because it was working, but not brilliantly. That's still in my drawer for some reason, and I'm not 100% sure. So there, I've just minimized it. Done. But when you're going into your drawer, it's like, I'm trying to think of what I have here. This duct tape's got one, like, half a piece of. It's like, the fuck am I doing with this stuff? Gone. I've just done 2.
There we go. You're on a roll. What number are you on today?
We're on. This is day 4. We haven't done it yet today, so it's day 4 today. So I've just done 2 or 4. I'm happy.
There we go. Okay. And the idea being, for those viewers watching, was that it's one extra per day, right? So then tomorrow you've got to minimize 5 things.
Items. Yeah, day 3 items, and we just keep going down the list till we get to 30. I'm to a point though where my wife says you don't have a lot to get rid of. I am actually down to everything I own is in this room. I have a handful of books that I can definitely minimize. Like there's a lot that I can do. I've been really ruthless with my stuff. I don't have a ton of stuff anymore. And my wife, she has a lot, but she's quite good at it. It's an ongoing process for her because she takes up, I'd say, 2 to 3 times the amount of storage. I have 1 closet and I've got like 2 drawers that covers all of my stuff. But I'm still not there yet. I want to have the whole idea, the rules that they gave. And this is something that I always think about it's the 20-minute rule, or $20 rule. I think it was. So if you don't have it, and there's a third one. Have you used it in the last 30 days? So if you haven't used it in the last 30 days, will it take you more than 20 minutes to get, from a local shop? And does it cost more than $20? Because if it doesn't cost more than $20 and it doesn't take you long to get it, why are you holding on to it for what you may or may not need at some point? Like pens.
I remember that. I have a feeling it was longer than 30. I mean, you could be right, mate, because it was a while since I read that in the book. But
let's see if I can find it.
Yeah, whack that up, the minimalist rule, because I really like that philosophy. It's there are things that you might use more seasonally. For example, stuff in the
ebook.
summer or stuff in the what's that?
I don't want to. So it's a free ebook, but I want to. What I'd rather do is I'd rather advertise the minimalist rule book than show it on the stream, so that I'm not taking away from their traffic. So, because of course Ryan and Josh will watch this. We have a lot of respect for you guys, so I'm going to put the link in the description. I'll do that now so that people can go ahead and find it is. So I'm actually going to download this 16 Rules for Living Less free ebook. And I even love they're selling books, but they're saying when they were selling the books, they're saying don't keep it. When you're done with it, upcycle it, give it to somebody else that value. So they're staying consistent with that, and they don't sell merch. And they're really hesitant on the podcast. They had so many people pining for. They had this bag. Let me see if I can find an image of it.
Remember
that everyone I was enamored with how they pack for 10 months, and I've been trying my best to get to like minimalist packing because I do a bit of traveling, and I can't. Let me find it. Minimalist bag.
Yeah, there was a huge demand for it, and they ended up doing like a limited run, didn't they, of that bag? They got the designer to, because it was decommissioned, and then I think they were going to do the design for it. And I thought, oh, I'll be interested. I looked at the price. I was like, oh, maybe I'll scoot on that one.
I've got a clip from it actually. Let me. I can share a clip actually. Hold on one second. So this is the bag that they were traveling with for 10. You said 10 months.
It was 10 months for on the first documentary.
All right. So the first thing I do whenever I get to a hotel
this is the bag,
or an Airbnb, or go to a reader's house and sleep in their guest bedroom or on their couch or something.
So this is attractive
I
hue.
unpack my bag. I know you see a lot of videos out there where people are showing you what
smart
they
hue
pack
too,
or how to pack light, and that's fine. I'm not going to win that competition. Instead, I'm going to unpack my bag to show you how I unpack, and you can also see what I travel with.
To be fair, I've not seen this, and I'm excited.
For a week or for a year, it's the same exact setup, no matter how long I'm traveling. So let's check it out.
So this is what the documentary should have been around.
First off, obviously the packed one bag. This is the best feature of the whole thing. It is a duffel bag that acts like a suitcase. So I've got two sides here, and also I've got this pouch in the middle that holds my computer. So we can go ahead and pull that out first. I've got my computer in here. Of course, you got to be able to charge the computer. So my computer charger is in there. And I keep a small notebook in here as well when I'm on the road. At home, I use a larger notebook, but on the road, I use a small notebook.
I'd use my phone.
Notes whenever I'm walking or we're just driving and I'm in the passenger seat. And then let's go to this side right here. This side, well, first off, you'll see I keep a yoga mat in my bag. So when I'm traveling, I have a really bad back. And I do
Such
a
a millennial
therapy, and it's hard to do when we have certain hotel rooms or there's no gym or anything like that. So I've got my own yoga mat with me. Makes things a lot easier.
You got that in there.
This is essential for sleeping at night. I have a mask, especially if there's a lot of light coming in or you don't have good blinds wherever you're staying.
How long is this?
Sleep mask is ideal.
10 minutes.
About sports, don't they, Sean?
If you want to
always about sports.
Quick dry towel.
Yoga. That's a sport.
Get your bag all wet.
But this is the bag. I think this is a 9-minute video.
Gym shoes, workout shoes. You could call them running shoes if you want, sort of minimalist slip-on shoes that pack in there really well.
Sports.
Every minimum where I got it,
mate. I don't know if you can find out the price or Google how much is the minimalist bag, the minimalist travel bag. If you Google that, mate, it's surprisingly expensive.
Yeah. Oh, here it is. Yeah, here it is. It's an Indiegogo. It wasn't something that was made to be mass produced, and it was something that.
It says on there.
Oh, that's the packed one bag. Let me just search that.
That cat. That's not the price for that, surely.
That's the bag, $275. That's the bag. I'm certain that's it.
No, mate, like that's a lot of money for a bag.
That's why they don't advertise the bag, though. I listened to a podcast where they talked about it.
Yeah, I remember looking at this because I thought, oh, I might get one for my travel.
To be fair, I spent money on a decent roller bag,
that's an
and it
expensive
was
bag.
like I think it was over 100 quid. But I have a feeling that this is a designer bag. What they will say, and this is the other thing that minimalism has really opened my eyes to, is I can still be a consumer and enjoy it, because Josh has, and I think that's an example. He likes good things. He likes the stuff that he owns to be his favorite things, and doesn't just buy stuff for the sake of buying it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that's a designer bag. But I was just
And to be fair, if he's going traveling, if he's traveling for 10, sorry, mate, I think there was a slight delay there. I cut you off. Carry on.
oh no, go ahead. I think there is a slight delay. Go right ahead.
No, I was just gonna. I was actually gonna echo your point there, mate. That I think if you were traveling around for 10 months of 12, then the bag in which you're going to carry all your belongings around is actually a really big deal, and you should be getting. You know, shouldn't be, but why would you get a plastic bag that half-assed does the job? You want to have something that's quality that you can enjoy, that's going to make life easier for you during that. It's quite a big deal for you when you're out on the road. There was one guy that I followed that's more into mindfulness, and he was explaining that when he tells his friends this, they kind of kick off, but he was trying to justify it. But he bought an £80 stapler, and they were like, "What are you doing? 80 quid on a stapler? You can pick those up for a couple of dollars. Why are you doing that?" And he was explaining that he actually does, a fair bit of stapling, and more than most. And then actually, when he uses this device, it's like artwork. He said it isn't just a stapler to me; it's like artwork, and the way it's constructed for your hand and the feel of it is beautiful. And he said that, look, am I saying that everyone needs to go out and buy the stapler? Of course not. I wouldn't dream of doing that. But he said, I want to use it as an example that when you spend money on something that's really meaningful and quality, you can get a huge amount of enjoyment from that. And yeah, so to that end, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, it comes down to for me, it's things you use. So one thing I've started doing is I've gotten rid of the number of shoes I have. I think I have like 5 or 6 pairs of shoes total. I have like 3 pairs. Well, that doesn't include my golf shoes, but I walk like 16 miles a week on the golf course. Sports. Just talk sports there, Reg. Don't worry. And on the golf course, I need comfortable shoes, and I might play 2 days in a row, so I have more than one pair. And then I have so I've got 3 pair of what's called spikeless. So they're like, summer golf shoes, which they're so I have purpose for that. And I spend money on those shoes, are specifically in here. I'm spending a lot of money on, because it makes a huge difference in day to day. I mean, it's for example, I have the shoes I'm buying now for my day to day are like Solomon waterproof with the quick lace zip thing. So I just sort of, like, for me, I'm in and out of the garage or the garage every day with the dogs. And for me, I need to be able to get them on, get them off really quick, but I also need them to be waterproof. But I don't want to have a lot of different pairs of shoes. So I want something that's high quality. And Richie John, that's exactly the reason I'm trying to get into a minimalist lifestyle instead of spending money on loads of cheap crap. I'd like to treat myself to the stuff I do need and buy quality. And that's, for me, it almost, Richie, I don't know if you're the same as me, but it gives me license to shop. I bought my work was bought out by another company, and my phone usage was going to change. And Hugh knows I love my gadgets, and it gave me license. I actually needed to buy a phone. So I went out and I got a new iPhone, and I spent the better part of a week researching, Googling, finding, for me, there's a lot of value in that process. And I was finding not the cheapest tool. I was finding the best tool for what I needed day to day, how much storage, what type of device. And now I don't need to buy a phone now. I've bought a phone that I'm going to be keeping for the next 3 to 4 years, and I'm not planning on buying another one. So, that for me, that's a valuable process that I can take on. It's buying good quality stuff that I cherish, and not buying like multiple cheap things to just sort of fill the void for a lot of different processes. I have one kick-ass phone that does my video recording. It does my note taking. It's easy to take with me wherever I go. It fills a lot of needs. But that's what minimalism does. It opens up that pathway to be able to shop guilt-free.
Yeah, I followed a similar path with. Yeah, absolutely, mate. I followed a similar path with cars, and you'll be aware that I had my Corsa for many years, 2007 plate, and it was only end of 2019, just over a year ago, that I got a new Mercedes. And I was someone that's worked for home since I've had my business since 2015, and I haven't really needed a car. And now that I'm into property investing, I'm traveling a lot more. I'm going to see investors. I'm looking at properties. I'm driving around. And personally, I get a bit of anxiety for being on the road in a Corsa. You've got this machine that isn't really built for like motorway driving. It's like, and it's like shaking a little bit as you're driving at 70 miles an hour, like just doing the speed limit. So I thought, you know what, I've done quite well the last few years. I'm going to get something that's a little bit more comfortable. And I spent well over the odds, more than most people will on a car. But I've got a really lovely car right now, and I love driving in it. And it really gives me a lot of value. And yeah, I really could be happy with it. I'm delighted with it. And so I think, yeah, it's about spending less on the less meaningful things, and really and that will give you in turn more money to spend more money on the things that really add value to your life. Like Sean loves golf. Why not put your money into golf, because you get so much from it, and whatever that means to you in your life.
So just so everybody who's watching, I think there's like a 7-second delay between Hugo and I. So Hugh, just a heads up, there's gonna be some pauses between when we speak, until we can ascertain there is no gap anymore. I think, and the other thing that it connects to, and I'll get to your comment in a second, Richie, is it didn't, I think the other thing that it extended to, that I know you and I took value from, was it's not just things as far as where minimalism comes into play. And one of the things they said that really, it's a harder thing to take on board, but it's being, oh, I'm going to lose my light. This show is falling apart. There we go. It's making deliberate decisions with, there's the delay, making deliberate decisions with your time and who you spend time with, and who, you know, is this person adding value to your life? So for instance, not saying yes to people because you feel bad, you know, doing things that add value for you. But that doesn't mean you're selfish and every decision is about you. But, you know, there's people in your life that, you know, do they add value, or are you just, you know, going through the motions because you don't want to upset somebody? You're wasting your time. You're wasting your life doing that. It's just it's more than, it extends to more than just stuff. And real quickly here, I'm going to get to some comments here as Richie's followed up on that. Yeah, 100% agree. I've got one decent phone that was on a 2-year contract, and when it run out, it still worked fine. Does everything I need to. Still has pretty good specs. And actually, it's interesting, because I found that the phone contract that I have, it ended up being the same cost as me buying the phone outright, with the cost of the monthly the subscription to the phone. That's not the right word, but for the contract. And then he said, and my SIM only deal is now half the price of the original contract and has unlimited everything like my past contract, which is, yeah, that's where my wife's at right now. She's had her phone for more than 2 years. She bought it, I think, outright. And if you buy that one good device, you save up for it, you're going to end up getting that money back in the long run.
That's the Hugh hack, mate. I did it with my Galaxy S2. Because Sean got me into it because he was massively into his tech. So I think when the 3 was out, I got the 2. I bought it outright on eBay, maybe even a refurb model or a warranted model, and then just went the SIM only deal. I had it for like 6 years until it started. The apps weren't working on it anymore, and that's what kind of led me to buy the next phone after that. So it's a great hack in general. Why people kind of pay the full price when there's that option on the table, I'm not sure of. But yeah, what was your point again with your? I know your wife. You were saying about the phone. She's done the same thing, weren't you?
Same thing, and she's gotten it with her phone. She got a phone. She doesn't have as many needs, in you know, where I think Richie, you and I are probably very similar. We like our gadgets and we want good shit, but you know, we don't want to have a lot of it. We want to make sure we get the best gadget, the best device, the best phone that's going to keep us going for a while. Whereas my wife just needs to take pictures, make phone calls, send messages, and get on the internet. And she actually that's her main internet driver. So I bought her a secondhand iPhone XR just a month ago. It was just before Christmas. And all she needed was a bigger screen and something that she can check stuff on. And by the way, I found the 20 for 20 rule, if you want to hear it.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So 20 for 20 rule. I'm just going to put this on the screen. And this is a good rule. So the 2020 rule, just in case, the aforementioned minimalists have something they call the 2020 rule. The idea is if you have something you're keeping just in case, then you should get rid of it, because if a situation ever does arise where you need that item, you could probably replace it for less than $20 and within less than 20 minutes. And I think that's what I've been using to decide whether I'm going to keep something or not.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily something you haven't used, because there might be, say, a winter jacket, and in summer there's going to be several months you're not using it, but you're not keeping it just in case. You're keeping it because you don't need it now. You will be needing it in the future, just not for the next few months. But if there is something, like the examples of what you pulled out of your drawer, just in case, and you haven't used it for like even a year's gone past, I think that's a benchmark for me. If I've not used it in 12 months and it's gone through and it's just sat there again, I'm like, right, okay. I'll usually give it another time. I'll have a clear out once a year. And if it's still there, that's when I kind of go back and get rid of it. But I just wanted to tap into something you were saying, Sean, about it's not just about things, it's about people, because they had this amazing exercise in the first book of the Minimalists. I think it's called the first book. And that book is
Everything That Remains, isn't it? Isn't that the first book?
No, Everything That Remains is the follow-up. I think that's the second or third book. Minimalists is the first version that they bring out. And I have some exercises. It's a personal development book, and I think it's fantastic. And one of the things they said on it was write a list of everyone that you spend time with in your social circle. And that would be from your family, from your friends, to your colleagues, to people in clubs and all that type of stuff. And then you put like you put a plus or a minus next to them, whether they add value to your life in whatever way that is, or they actually, take it away. And then once you've had a look at that list, see if you can find more time for the people that add more value, maybe the 2 pluses or the 2 minuses. Spend time with the 2 pluses and the pluses, and try to limit the time that you're spending with the minuses. And it's a really basic kind of principle, but again, minimizing the clutter, the people in your life that aren't really adding value, that are maybe negative, putting you down, making you feel shitty for whatever reason, and instead use that time to spend more with the people you enjoy. And I just want to just take that on one more example, mate, because I have a real life example of it where I met someone through my frugal living side of it. I run a blog, a financial blog, and we met someone. We were kind of great hanging out together, and very highly educated guy. He was a doctor, and we really got on as a couple, the 4 of us, and it got political. We had a chat one time, and it was not very bearded philosophy chat. It was like, you're wrong, and this is why you're wrong, and let me explain this to you. It was like, okay, well, I'm hearing what you're saying. I still don't agree with that thought. This is why I feel the way I feel. But it was like he could not let it go. He had to beat me in this and I was like, this isn't like a case that it's a right or wrong here. This is your opinion. This is mine. I'm understanding it, and I was speaking to him the way I'm speaking to you right now. I wasn't getting worked up over it. Actually, Lou did get a bit worked up and walked out at one stage and just said,
"Really?
I think she's like, I think we need to change the subject."
I've never seen Lou do that.
She was really agitated, and I just carried. I was like, "No, it's okay. We can carry it. We'll talk it through." And it came clear from other examples, which I won't go into now, that this guy he's a very educated guy. He's a successful guy. He's a doctor. Like, he's brilliant at what he does, but he's just one of the things. He's just a very dogmatic. He's just got to really follow he doesn't let things go. And he ended up trying to get another meet up with us, and I kind of realized, Lou was like, oh god, his other half is texting me now, like saying, did I get the message? I just ghosted him. I was like, I'm not going to hang out with this guy anymore. Nothing to do with his political view. It's just that his personal view was I'm going to tell you what to think, and I'm not going to let you have another opinion. I'm like, I don't want to fucking spend time with people like that. So I was like, I'm just going to let it burn. And I actually thought of you, and that was my argument with Sean, was that I have people like Sean that I'm not hanging out with, that I really love hanging out with, I get so much value from, and I don't see anywhere near enough of Sean as I want to. And yet, why would I now try? Hey,
we don't hang out much.
No, but aside from this, we don't now, right? But there are so many people in your life that you want to hang out with. Why are you bringing these people in your life that are actually, deep down, they'll like. He was a really playful, fun guy as well, but there was always that side to him. If you disagreed with him, then you were going to have to go through the rigmarole of having this conversation. You would never let it go. And I'm like, fuck that. Like, I just don't want to be around people like that. You know, he could be right, he could be wrong. I just don't want to be with people that just are that single-minded. So I love that exercise and thought I'd share that for those that haven't read the book, because this isn't just about getting rid of your garbage around the house. It's about getting rid of those things in general, and in some cases people, and limiting that.
So Richie was saying, I think the 2020 rule has been changed to go to work, don't go to work. Sorry, has been changed to go to work, don't go to work, use public transport, don't use public transport. Spot on. It's I don't know where you're from, Richie, but it's confusing times right now, and I think minimalism is not being applied to COVID life. I think COVID's making it harder to be a minimalist, because we tend to. My wife's noticing she was saying she's buying things now. She's trying to, which I think the documentary, watching it over the week, both of them, we watched them both again, helped her realize that actually I'm buying things to try to fill the void.
It's retail therapy.
But it's a shit show. I agree. Absolute shit show. If you stick around, we have talked about it before. We'll probably end up talking about COVID again, because it's everywhere. We can't run from it. But I think in the end, where we've come to, we're spot on, agreeing with our view on the documentary. It's, if for anybody's watching this, I would recommend Less Is Now if you've not seen. I'd recommend it if you have seen it. Just go in with tempered expectations. It's not that, thankfully, it's only 53 minutes long, so it's not like a big investment in time to watch it. But the first, if you've not watched it, watch the first one. But just watch the first one as sort of an introduction before you watch the second one, which is the original. And that would be my view. It's out of 10, I'd say for them it's a 5. Maybe 6 at best. And their other documentary is a 9.5, 9.7.
Yeah, I'd say that's really fair, mate. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think if the first one wasn't out, it would be higher.
Yeah. So well, I guess from here, I think, Hugh, it's I'm just thinking we've covered minimalism. I just wanted to get a few things out beforehand, just the subliminal messaging. All right, there we go. And I guess we need to figure out what we're going to pick up next week. There's a big gulf in sort of topics now. I'm now starting to lose words. So next week I'm going to have a look because I want to start digging into more of these weekly stories, but I want to try to find a different angle to these stories. Because this was an obvious week where we had to hit on some major things, and we covered the minimalists this week, which has been a nice change of pace. So if anybody who's watching this wants to fill in, comment below and let us know what they want to talk about, what they want to jump in on, anything. We're happy to talk about it. Just give me enough time to do some research and put together the clips. What are you thinking for next week, Hugh? Any ideas, or just sort of wait and see what comes?
Yeah, I think the latter, mate, really. I don't have anything burning right now. I mean, Cobra Kai 3 season 3. Cobra Kai season 3 is
that is an investment.
I'm not quite into that yet. I've been watching something else, so maybe we can return to that. But I don't have thing. Sorry?
There was one thing I wanted to recommend.
What's that?
And it was, I saw this 3-part documentary. It was a murder story called Murder on Middle Beach, and it was incredible. Absolutely incredible. It's a 3-part miniseries about this kid he's a documentary film maker. And it's something I want to review at some point in the future. So everybody's watching, you're getting a bit of insight on us planning our show for next week. But in case anybody wants to jump in with ideas, it's called Murder on Middle Beach. Nick and I couldn't stop watching this. It took us 3 hours to get through the whole thing. And it's about this filmmaker, and he's so relatable and so intelligent, very switched on, whose mother was murdered. And he's trying to find out who it is. They've not found out who the murderer is. And there's a lot of dodgy things going on within the family. I just can't. I hope they make another. It's an HBO film that was out. So if you can find any way to watch this, Hugh, do it.
What channel is that on then, mate?
I think it was on the Crime Channel. We were able to find it on our TiVo. Right. So I wonder if you can stream Murder because it was on HBO.
Okay, I'll have a look. I'm not sure we could access it, but
I wonder if you can on it's on. Let me see, prime.co.uk. Let me find it here first. Because if it's on Prime, you could rent it maybe.
Don't bank on that one, mate. I will have a look, but I might not be able to.
Yeah, you may not be able to either.
But outside of that, mate, no, I can't say I have got anything. I'm quite happy to kind of see what people come back with, or see what comes in the news, and catch up with you in the week to look at potential topics.
Well, to everybody, Richie, thanks for jumping in. Veg, is always good to see you and hear from you. Veg, we'll make sure we do a sports one for you next week. Definitely need to make sure there's more sports. That's the message I'm getting. I don't know about you, mate, if you're getting the same thing.
Agreed,
yeah. Okay.
Sean.
So more sports. Got it. Thanks, Veg. So next week, we'll keep you up to date. I may do a quick video just to highlight what it is we're going to talk about after we've decided to talk about it. If you have stuck around with us this far, we've gotten yet another subscriber today. So please like and subscribe the videos, comment. We're happy with negative comments. I have no problem with that. We actually pin them to the top. So negative comments get our attention and we will reply to them. But please do like and subscribe. And wait, what? Oh, this is Veg. Yeah, you like sports, Veg. We're going to be talking about it. You'll be here for it. I think I'm going to be out with the flu next week. You've got time. You got time to watch then. That's not going to hide. That's not going to count. No worries. First time viewer. Very great show. Got another subscriber from me. Thank you. We'll have a look, Richie John, because I see you've got a Richie John blog. So Richie, it's great to have you. And
Thank you, mate.
we if you watch our earlier shows, they're very good. So we're getting better at it. Hopefully we get more people in the conversation. So like I said, thanks for joining, everybody. We will catch up with you next week. I will put a bit of a preview out for when we do decide what the topic is. Please like, subscribe if you are watching this after the fact, and everybody have a great week. Take care.
Take care.